In technology, most days are just another update. But every now and then, a day comes along that draws a line in the sand, a before and an after. We're going to talk about one of those days, a day when AI stopped being this kind of fuzzy, futuristic experiment and turned into something very, very real. All right, you're going to want to remember this date, September 30th, 2025. Because on this one day, a bunch of things that seemed totally unrelated in government, in big tech, in finance, they all suddenly snapped together and pointed in the exact same direction. This was the day AI basically grew up. The hype train, all that wild speculation, it finally pulled into the station. And a whole new phase began, one all about focus, real strategy, and actual tangible products. Okay, so let's get into it. On this single day, it all boiled down to four clear signals that just laid out the future for us. We got new rules for the entire industry. We saw a huge split between the biggest players. We saw AI start to disappear inside the tools we already use. And we saw the smart money make its big bets. Let's break down each one.
First up, the rules of the game. For years, let's be honest, AI development was kind of the Wild West. Well, on September 30th, the sheriffs finally rode into town. But here's the thing. They weren't all wearing the same badge, and they definitely didn't have the same playbook.
And right away, you see this fundamental clash of ideas. On one hand, you have California with this landmark bill basically telling the big AI labs, hey, you have to be transparent, you have to show your work, and you have to report when things go wrong. But on the other hand, the federal government came in with a totally different angle, saying, whoa, hold on. For the really powerful stuff, we, the Department of Energy, need to check it for national security risks before you're allowed to release it. Of course, not everyone was thrilled. The venture capital world, the people who fund the startups, they pushed back hard. Their argument was pretty simple. All this red tape, no matter how well-intentioned, could make it so expensive and complicated to build AI that only the giants like Google and Microsoft could afford it. And that, they said, would kill innovation. And then, just to make it more complicated, there was a third approach. The White House kind of sidestepped the whole debate and decided to aim AI like a fire hose at specific problems. An executive order pointed AI directly at pediatric cancer research, and boom, $100 million in funding to back it up. At the same time, the government offered up federal land to build new data centers. So get this. On the exact same day, you've got the state level demanding transparency, the feds demanding pre-approval, and the White House just trying to point the tech at big problems. It was a wild mix. Now, let's switch gears to our second signal. Because while the politicians were drawing up the rulebooks, the titans of the industry were making their own massive moves. And on this day, they showed the world they were no longer heading in the same direction. This was the great AI divergence. You have the two heavyweights, right? Anthropic and OpenAI. And they basically looked at the future of AI and walked in completely opposite directions. Anthropic went all in on the professional, high-end enterprise market. Meanwhile, OpenAI made this stunning pivot to become a consumer social media company, taking a direct shot at giants like TikTok. Anthropic's new model was like a surgical instrument. It wasn't for playing around. It was for professional coders. They flat out called it the best coding model in the world. And get this, it could work autonomously on a complex task for up to 30 hours straight. That's a massive leap. This wasn't about generating a few lines of code. It was about building entire professional applications, a very specific tool for a very high-value market. OpenAI went the complete opposite way. They launched Sora 2 not as a tool, but as its own standalone app, basically a TikTok clone with a huge twist. You couldn't upload your own videos. Everything on the platform had to be generated by AI. And to get it all started, they had this wild cameos feature where it could scan your face and voice and pop you into any scene you could imagine. This was a direct assault on the entire idea of user-generated content. So this brings us right to our last two signals, and they're totally connected. It's all about how the rest of the tech world and Wall Street reacted to this new reality. AI started becoming less of a shiny new toy and more of a hidden ingredient, and investors got way, way smarter about where they put their cash. We saw what I like to call the great embedding. Cisco announced that its WebEx video conferencing tool would now just have these smart AI agents woven right in, summarizing your meetings, scheduling follow-ups, even connecting to other apps. And Meta revealed they were using AI internally for the super complex, tedious work of compliance testing. See, AI wasn't a separate thing you had to buy. It was becoming the secret sauce that made the tools you already had even better. So if AI is just becoming a feature, where did all the big investment money go? Well, the smart money wasn't chasing every new app. They were focused on the foundations. They weren't betting on the gold miners. They were selling them the picks and shovels. Case in point, on September 30th, the AI chipmaker Cerebras, one of NVIDIA's biggest rivals, announced a massive new funding round. We're talking $1.1 billion.
And that new funding pushed their valuation to a staggering $8.1 billion. This wasn't a bet on some cool app. This was a massive bet on the fundamental hardware that makes this entire industry run.
And that was just the start. This whole chart tells the story of the day. You see that huge infrastructure investment in Cerebras, but then look at the other deals. You have companies buying other companies, not for their tech, but to acquire their customer base or to acquire their talented employees. This is exactly what a maturing market looks like. It's less of a gold rush and more of a chess match. And if you need just one picture to prove the entire psychology of the market had changed, this is it. Look at this. Web searches for the phrase AI bubble. They just fell off a cliff. An 85% drop in just 1 month. The frenzy was over. The serious business had begun. So what happens when you put all this together? What does it all mean? It means that on September 30th, 2025, we turned the page. We officially entered a new era for artificial intelligence. Let's just recap those 4 signals one last time. We got specialized rules, as governance finally started to catch up. We got specialized platforms, with the big guys choosing their lanes. We saw AI become a specialized feature, hiding inside other tools. And we saw specialized capital, with money pouring in to the foundations. You see the common word here, right? Specialization. So the bottom line is this. The idea of a single general-purpose AI that does everything for everyone, well, that idea is kind of fading. The future that arrived on that day is all about targeted tools for specific jobs, with clear business strategies, and for the very first time, real rules. So yeah, we've seen AI specialize in writing code, in creating social media, in running our meetings, and in checking for compliance. The age of specialization is here. And that leaves us with one huge, fascinating question. What will it specialize in next?